understand that India is changing and the returns on the investments probably are not the same what you think archaic days of 20 years, 15 years back. Today you will get 20%, but you will get 20%. It's not the story of 30% and then you're getting 20%. So Mike, that is first part. Second part is individual customers. Let's understand the fundamental shift. This government last 3 years have taken away all the possible benefits for individuals to invest into second home as an investment. First, Section 54 has been taken away for only one home. Number two, multiple homes, you take a mortgage loan and you have a set-off against the rental income has been taken off. It is now 2 lakh rupees. So the opportunity and there was an event for individuals to look at real estate as asset class has been taken off. We cannot shy away from the reality. And hence, what is going to happen is that, this is my personal view, for a long period of time, we will see the deflationary situation of land prices. And when the deflationary situation in land prices clearly means property prices are not going to go up. If the property prices are not going to go up, then how the hell individuals will make money when they invest into per square feet? Hence, we need to be very careful while investing. Does not mean that the whole market is going to fall, nothing of that kind. There are brands, there are locations, there are people who will always and in the past and today and in future have enjoyed the premium. There are two developers get two different price points in the same market when they are compound walled together. Why? They use the same steel, same cement, same Indian customer, same bank give the loan. Why is the difference about 10%, 15% in the prices? That's where people need to be educated. And the third point, which is the last point what I would like to say, is that the game changer is execution. We have to have more parties for delivering homes than parties for launching homes, okay? So I think that's going to be the key thing.
And Farooq, I certainly want to bring you in here, but a question for you specifically. So traditionally, most capital raised by Indian real estate funds has been structured as debt financing. And, rightly so, they enjoy returns of upwards of 18% year on year. So is there a case to be made for a pure play growth capital strategy to real estate development for equity financing?
Personally, I've never gone into debt. I've always played with equity because you get the upside and you get the downside, and the risk is always balanced off. But different individuals have different ways of doing things, and in certain markets when it's equity is cheaper when the prices are rising and debt is cheaper, vice versa, and so on and so forth. But the flavor of the season again depends on the appetite of the investor and what he's looking for. And it all depends on the size, the ticket size that we're talking about, the location, and who the developer is and things like that. But what I was wanting to say was, Sunil was mentioned a point about interest being low. It's fabulous. But let's just peep outside. We're talking about 2%, 3% interest rates. We're getting excited here at 10%. Sunil, where are we? How can we sell homes to people at 10% and 14%, 1.5%, 2% is the rate of interest globally? And what are we doing? We're making new banks richer and richer and richer.
Farooq, this country, the 10-year risk-free bond is at 6.5%. Now, being the industry, there is a risk premium, there is an illiquidity premium to be added, there is a volatility premium to be added. So I think where I'm coming from 16% home loan rate to 8.35, and I'm pretty decently confident that home loan rate soon to go below 8%. 4% should
be right. 4%.
Absolutely. For that, inflation has to be 2%. So, and the GSEC has to be 3.5%, and which probably can happen, but I think it is too forward-looking statement at this point of time to really look at those numbers. Though the country balance sheet is looking good, fiscal deficits are in control and all that stuff, but I do not see that happening in the next 5 years' time.
Yes, so just to add over here,
please.
So basically there are types of finances. So just to add, my fraternity friends are just highlighting debt and other stuff. So from a developer's point of view, so when we talk about a growth capital or any kind of fundraising, there are multiple options are available. So first, I would like to highlight about bonds. So good developers having good rating from the CRISIL or other agencies, so bonds are also available. So bond is typically available in between 9 to 10%, wherein you can go for 3 year, 5 year, and a single bullet payment is also available. You have to serve your interest in 6 months basis, quarterly basis, monthly basis. Second comes your bank finance, which is typically a construction finance, which is available in between 11 to 12. Third comes your NBFC finance, which is typically available in the range of 16 to 17. And the last option comes under a private equity, which is available from 19 to 25% sort of IRR. So it all depends at which stage of the project you are looking for this funding. Sometimes what happens, private equity guys doesn't want to take any approval risk. So at that time, but you feel that this is a land parcel wherein the profits are enormous and you want to close the transaction. So that time you have to go to NBFC because NBFC are ready to take some sort of approval risk, and that's where they charge some 4-5% additional premium. So that you have to give. Sometimes you feel that there should not be any end-use restriction to the fund. We want to utilize for the new business development activities or for some other general corporate purpose, wherein we don't want to specify our end use. Then bond is the best avenue which you should opt for. And the best is that sometimes we feel that you are acquiring land, there is a gestation period of 1 year, 1.5 years. Then probably you feel that initially the sales will be on a lower side, but gradually sales will pick up over a period of time. That's where we prefer equity, because initial days you have to serve your interest, repayment, and if cash flows are not available, then private equity is the best way. So combination of all will help you to run your business more smoothly and efficient manner. So rather than focusing on one aspect, I think these are the 5-6 instruments which are available based on the business model of particular land parcel or specific developer. I think they are preferring this kind of stuff. Having said that, we feel that if 5%, 6% should be our growth capital, but logically speaking, I personally feel that in the Indian real estate market, that growth capital is way ahead. Means I don't think that is available in today's scenario wherein we can say that yes, we are getting money at 4-5%, then we'll enter into that LIBOR and everything, but ultimately end up around 10%. So I think anything in between 9 to 10% is a good growth capital in current scenario. Expectation of keeping 5-6% in Indian market is either a myth or is just a dream.
Now, Ramesh, do you share that? Ramesh, do you share that sentiment?
So a couple of data points. Last year we saw close to $6 billion coming on the PE front into the Indian real estate market. In this, close to 4 billion out of the 6 billion was structured debt, although it's private equity firms giving it, but it was structured debt. Balance of the 2 billion, around 85% went into office. So there is very little pure private equity actually coming into the residential sector, and very, very few players. Sunil is one of those few players. Otherwise, the balance 85 people like Sanjay or a Blackstone or a Qataris or Abu Dhabi investment, those were the real private equity happening. So firstly, there is no pure private equity into residential happening, very, very less. Second is, I think what the downturn in the last 2-3 years has taught us is to deleverage. All developers have realized that unless I'm, let's say, a DLF or a Lodha or a Kalpataru, I can't be executing 10 projects at the same time. I need to be focusing on my top 3 projects and finishing it. Look at last week's big deal, which was DLF selling their good part of their portfolio to GIC for nearly 10,000 crores. What was that for? That was basically deleveraging. So that's the message. As much as possible, developers today should deleverage, not get into 10 to 15 different projects, and again get back into that old cycle which we saw back in 2009.
Indeed, a focused approach. And a last question to the panel before I open it up to the audience for Q&A. Now, you are all seasoned real estate professionals, but if you go back in time and think back to when you initially got your start in this industry, what do you know now that you wish you knew then? Farooq, I'd like to start with you.
I may be the grandfather here because I've been in this business 35 years. But I can say one thing. We've evolved, and we've evolved for the better. We've seen growth that no country in the world has seen growth. And it's not just growth in one sector. I can personally speak to you and tell you about how money has been made in this industry. Agricultural land at the end of the city, at the edge of the city was bought, changed to residential or commercial, where you bought an acreage became square foot and square foot became FSI. So I have met people across the globe. They have a different perspective of India. I don't think this is going to happen ever again in most of the cities, but I think if I were to play the role that I played I'd like to get back in the same seat at the same point of time, but put in 100x more than what I did.
Sanjay.
I have a very interesting story to share. You may have to give me a little bit more time. I have a wise man story. Back in 70s, there were developers in every market who built CBDs, so makers and Mittals and Nariman Point and Ansals and so many others in Delhi and likewise everywhere. They're not there anymore. Then came the 80s when there was an opportunity. India got liberalized, IT policy. A lot of developers came in. They thought it's a good opportunity, and they really benefited because they were the early starters. So definitely that was a success story. Then they thought probably, now I know it all. I'm the wise man. And then came the exuberance. I can touch anything and turn into gold. So they wanted to become pan-India developers. Some even landed in Dubai and Malaysia, by the way. They wanted to do hotels, IT parks, shopping centers, anything and everything. They had 1,500 shopping malls, by the way. And we used to give example, Ramesh, that if UK can have 2,000 shopping centers, why can't India, with a population of 1.8 billion, 2 billion, can have 1,500? Reasonable argument. So everybody went for shopping centers. Then the same developers said, I want to build a hotel. Maybe they love building hotels. I don't know why. I think they just like the idea of the Darban opening the door and saluting the developer, and they love it. Maybe they want to host their daughter's wedding out there, maybe. So they all built hotels, they all built shopping centers, they all built IT parks, they all built, and then they soon realized it was not, but they still thought they were wiser than the lot. Then the wise man philosophy took further, and they said, I'm going to be pan-India, like I said, and they suffered. Then they said, we learned the lesson. And when you learn, you really feel that you become wise, right? So you come back to your home market. This time you're really intelligent because you've gone through the learnings, the hardship, and you come back and you buy land in your own city because that's where you grew. So DLF went back to Gurgaon, Reheja came back to Mumbai, many other developers came back to their home market. But they didn't have land in their home market. They had land everywhere else, but not in their home market. So they borrowed money only at 24% to buy land. Because they were wiser, remember? They were really wise. And so they bought at 24% interest, expecting 30 or 40% return to retire 24% debt. So they must be wiser because they've gone through so many cycles. So they really went this time, and then somebody said, commercial takes 3 years to complete. Residential, you do bhumi puja, paise aane shuru hate, Lakshmi comes to your door immediately. So everybody wanted to do residential. This time they're really wise because it's a cash flow situation. They don't want debt, they want residential. Now, as a result of residential and so much of capital and what we call as a herd mentality, everybody has built the inventory. Now, they were building residential for speculators, investors, end users. Speculators and investors lost all their money after investing some bit. So they were no longer buyers. Now the only end users were left. End users were hit by the job markets, whether it's global, whether it's local, whether it is IT, whether it is banking or whatever. They never anticipated because they thought they're really wise, okay? So they really wisely went for this direction, and they are now in this situation. Now, after 25 years of real estate development, all developers already think they're very wise. So I'm hoping the next 25 years, they will actually be wise.
Sunil.
I do not take so much of time. I think we have already had it, exceeded the time. Wise or otherwise? I feel if I have to restart, and with having so much of water flown in 2 decades, industry being recognized, transparency, governance, regulations, all sorts of things coming to this country, and we as a country on the planet is going to have fantastic times of 3 or 5 decades, what China has seen in 80s, okay? we would be seeing that today onwards. So probably it's not inhibition, but I somewhere thought something in mind that if at all I have to start new, and the next 30, 50 years, I would be a developer. And that's where I said, wise or otherwise, okay? And the developer who's focusing on senior citizen homes, rental housing, student housing, and a community smart living, so that we don't create these lanes and by-lanes which do not really have. Because by then we would be, as a country, per capita income is no more going to be $2,000. So I feel, I know it's a very interesting thought, but I genuinely mean it. Thank you.
Ramesh, please.
I'll be like Farooq, glass half full. So 2-3 things which we did right. First, I would say always hire one person. I'm part of the brokerage industry. My request to this group here, the audience, is just hire one person. There are a lot of one-man shops here. Just hire one person. Second is every day try and learn something new. This is a session. There's so many ideas which came from Farooq, Sanjay, Sunil. Just that one thing which you need to learn per day. And third is always specialize in one aspect. Instead of trying to do so many things differently, just specialize in one aspect. It could be one asset class. It could be one micro market. So that would be my top 3 things.
And Gopal, the floor is yours.
Yeah, so to conclude, I think real estate is all about FSI. So I just want to highlight from that perspective. Earlier, there were about like one FSI which was prevailing across India, and now the FSI has gone to 2, 3, 4. So there was too much of greed for the developers in terms of FSI. FSI means they don't want to leave. The scenario has changed. So I feel this is a time wherein a 360-degree focus has to be considered. And FSI consumption is completely based on your financial model. So sometimes letting go the FSI is also a very wise decision. Some plots wherein if FSI is 1 and now the 3 FSI is available and your input cost is going to 5,000, your selling price is 8,000, but existing input cost versus new input cost is killing your incremental revenue. You are just becoming a cash flow company. You are just a contractor without profit. So somewhere the FSI greed has to let go. We have to focus that there are so many things like GST, RERA, demonetization, professionalism is required, proper setup is required, and whatever you can consume, keeping thing in mind about your financial parameter is the best aspect. There is no point leveraging too much. There is no point opening 50, 100 projects at one go. There is no point creating team, and one moment of time you are not able to manage your cash flows. So operating cash flows is very important. Now you see recently the scenario has changed. People are sitting on a debt and your interest and repayment, that itself is not their yearly collection. So you can visualize the scenario, and that's where all these NPAs have started. So one has to be a very balanced approach has to be taken, a 360-degree focus in terms of cost competitiveness, revenue optimization, sales appetite, borrowing cost, and your land acquisition is obviously a very vital role because there itself, that is your raw material. So while acquiring land, you cannot go wrong. If you are going wrong at that time, then you are out of the game. You cannot recover back the thing. So if somebody who can take a 360-degree approach, keeping in mind a proper time zone, focusing on execution, as Sunil rightly said, execution will incentivize you. I think this is what the sectoral transformation happened. One has to understand that. Ensure that you are a manufacturer, service provider, you will enjoy this real estate sector. Thank you.
Speaking of a 360-degree approach, I think we really need to give our panel another round of applause for a rich range of perspectives on the Indian real estate sector. Now, unfortunately, I'm told that we've completely run out of time, but the entire panel will be there over lunch. Please ping them with your questions and queries and get to know them better. And thank you all for your time, inspiring words, and personal anecdotes. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja, for moderating that session so very wonderfully. I would request Ram Prasad to please join us on stage and present the memento to Sanjay Dutt and Gopal Sharda. requesting you to present it to Gopal Sharda. And also requesting Vinodji to please present it to Mesh Nair, Smeel, and our lovely Pooja. A round of applause for all our panelists and our moderator. Thank you so much. All right, ladies and gentlemen, quickly telling you what's there for today. Our masterclass is happening at Jasmine room. We have between 3 to 4 o'clock. We have a session by Mr. Anuragiri, and it's a very interesting session about principles and practices to achieve your profitable sales effortlessly. Also, in Lotus room, we have a session between 3 to 4 again, sharing the best practices worldwide to provide you with the best business models. And it's a panel discussion between Kirkor from France, Martin from Germany, Nessen from Berg. Ladies and gentlemen, quickly introducing my next panel discussion. And a quick reminder for people who have not checked out, please go and check out. Keep tweeting, keep Facebooking, and keep doing all of that. We're still getting a lot of selfies from our friends. And the maximum amount of people in one selfie has been 15 as of now. And we're still looking for more. We will give the person who takes the selfie a prize. And our next panel discussion is on challenges and opportunities in brokerage business post RERA and GST. To conduct this from Mirror Now, we have Tanya Bharadwaj, and our panelists for the same is Sam Chopra, Kaizad Haderia, brand custodian and chief customer delight officer from Rustamji. We have Chetan Narayan, President and CEO of Narayan's Corp. We have Ram Prasad Pati, President Area Group. Siddharth Sen Gupta, GM Marketing Gera Developers. And Jayant Hemdev, Partner Hemdev Real Estate. For all our panelists coming on stage, can we have a round of applause for them? Ladies and gentlemen, Ladies and gentlemen, please requesting you to take your seat. We need to start the next session. Please take your seat. We appreciate if you respect our speakers and panelists on stage. Please take your seats. Over to you, Tanya. Thank you.
Are we good to go, ladies and gentlemen? Okay, good afternoon, and thank you so much for hanging on for this panel discussion. Just to give you a sense of what we are going to discuss over the next 30 minutes. So we have about 40 minutes. We thought we'll get started, maybe, have a chat for about 30 and then open it up to the House for Q&A. Over the next 30 minutes, what we're going to try and achieve is basically, get a sense of what the challenges and opportunities are in the times of RERA and GST for the broker community. Of course, right now on the panel, I've got representation from 2 developers, and the rest of the gang, of course, are, brokers. So I'm going to start first, with a sort of open-ended question, throw it to all the brokers here on my panel. Samir, why don't I start with you?
Sure.
So, my understanding of how things might have changed in the times of RERA is that traditionally, broking has been a business that doesn't have any entry barriers. And, when I say that, I mean, for example, I could be a broker, my neighbor could be a broker, my watchman could be a broker. Somehow, RERA seems to have changed that for the good, I would imagine. Is that how you and your brethren look at it?
Absolutely. I think first and foremost, when the National Association of Realtors India came into being, I think the first set of filters came about because we had at the local association level certain entry barriers that there were self-observed entry barriers that we set up. And we brought in education, training, skilling, etc., professional ethics, and so on and so forth. That is one. Then we went to the national body, that is National Association of Realtors, and again, the same thing has happened. And we've obviously imbibed things from NAR, Global, FIAPC, and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of self-governance that we already had. Having said that, with RERA coming in, what has really happened is RERA has brought in certain eligibility criteria for brokers. And you'd be surprised to know that until a couple of years back, when RERA was on the drawing board, the broker was not, or actually no intermediary, was a stakeholder in the act. It was only through ourselves, while other stakeholders may say, don't put us on the map of RERA, we went and actually lobbied and promoted and explained that the intermediary is the most important individual between the client and the developer. And therefore, we brought ourselves in. Now, with this, what has really happened is registration, licensing, and I believe over a period of time, just like the Institute of Chartered Accountants, Lawyers, and Doctors, this will evolve into a full profession where there will be training and there will be qualification, which will come out from the government. And I believe at that point of time, the government doesn't have such a large machinery to do this, the qualification and the training and the qualification. So the National Association of Realtors India probably, at least it is my belief, that the government may call upon us to be the qualifying body, just like you have the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. So it's a great way of suddenly getting recognized, rewarded, and respected for the work that we're carrying on.
Jen, recognized, rewarded, and finally being respected, for the work, and this is from the government. This, of course, must mean a lot for your community, isn't it? But I also want to just ask, it's bound to lead to consolidation as well, which may be a good thing. I don't know. Is it a good thing?
That's a very controversial subject, consolidation. Yes, with RERA coming in, there's going to be a filtration process. You're going to have at least 40 to 50% of the unorganized sector going away. They're not going to go there. They're not going to come into the fold where we are today. I personally believe there will be some consolidation at some point of time. Not immediately, but at a later date where you're going to have not a very well-informed broker, but a broker who's willing to be well-informed, who'll get into the fold of larger real estate companies, where they can take them in, train them, and they can work under their banner.
Okay. Chetan, do you agree that consolidation is, not so bad after all? It probably, separates the serious players from the not so serious ones?
The men from the boys?
So, sorry, say that again?
The men from the boys, is that your question?
I didn't say that because it upsets me how few women there are in this room.
Oh God,
but that's for another day. No,
remember.
my question to him was that is consolidation necessarily a bad thing, given that in a sense, it sieves out the not so serious players?
So I may have a different opinion, just not for the sake of argument with how Jayant said this. I feel, see, everybody has a right to make money, right? You cannot say that my neighbor cannot become a broker. Why not? The entry barrier has to be education, as Sam said. Ram Prasad has been a part of something that we started with NAR. And education is what is required, or certification is what is required. How different is America? America has somebody who's a nobody has become a real estate broker themselves. How different are they? I mean, aren't we all adapting and learning from, how the best practices around the world? One good thing is that this business is never going to die. Why? Because it had to die, it would have died long ago when the dot-com boom started. You can't bloody buy properties on apps. You can't buy properties on portals. You do need brokers, especially in the second sale scenario. Consider a situation you bought a property. Now what will you do if you want to sell it? Will you go back to Rustamji? He will say, get lost, I've got my own inventory to sell. Or if he's finished selling, he'll probably assist you, okay, bhai, isse baat kar lo, usse baat kar lo, kind of stuff, right? But other than that, you will have to go back to a broker. So your focus sometimes will be different. When you talk about RERA, it's different because you're talking about under construction threats with developers. But when it comes to the other resale part, your business will always be there. So consolidation is great. It's good to get, like I said, separate the men from the boys. But let there be room enough. Like my father always says, there's enough fish in the sea. There's enough for everyone to do. There's a specialty with this one, specialty with that one. He will do something else. He's specialized in a location. I may be all over. Somebody may be everywhere. I don't know what. Like Vinod Thakkar, if he's not around now, but he's everywhere in the city apparently, right? Yeah, so that's how it is.
What about you, Mr. Ramprasad? Do you think the pros outweigh the cons?
I think the first and the foremost thing that has happened with RERA is brokers till now were considered a necessary evil in a transaction. And necessary evil in the transaction, even if you have to resell your house, you think, oh, why go to a broker? You go list it on a portal. But I would say people still love assisted buying and selling because everyone is specialized in the job. So if there's a banker who's looking for a house, he is specialized in banking. He doesn't know the nuances of what a legal is, what a finance is, or whatever, so many things. So it's as good as going to a doctor, or if I have a headache or a serious thing, I won't go to a chemist and do a self-medication there. What I will do is I'll go to a doctor who will diagnose me. 4 days after he's not able to diagnose me properly, I go to a super specialist. Now, I always tell people real estate is probably the biggest decision you ever take in your life. So why go unassisted? Why don't you take the assistant? But that's where the difference lies is, whom do you go for the assistance? Do you go to the organized sector where you have a class of realtors like this, who are educated, who are skilled, as Sam said, who have gone through trainings through the local association, who are good with technology, who know what they're talking about? Or would you go to the security guard of a building? Would you go to a manager? Because unfortunately in India, what's happening is real estate services is linked to information. People think if I have information of selling a property, then I'm in that business, which is not true. Information is the starting point, then comes your skill, then comes the transaction. So what has RERA done is put real estate brokers on the map of the world, saying, yes, we recognize you as much as a developer. There are rules for the developers in RERA. There are rules for real estate agents in RERA. So at least that credibility process has started. I would say recognition has started. So I look to RERA as that's the biggest pro for us, and let the industry evolve, as Chetan said. There are enough of fish in the market. Let people decide whom to go to, but at least real estate agent got the due recognition, and association like Area, association like Smart, the umbrella body like NAR India, let them take it further to educate the public. Why should you work with a certified realtor? I think it's a big step that the government has taken, and it should go further down.
Okay, great. So we've heard what at least all the brokers on the panel think. I want to now get a sense of what the developers, that's both Gera as well as Rustomji, think. Kesad, if I can say, you know, it's like saying the rules of the game have changed. The game remains the same. So what happens to developers like yourselves who had, say, 100, 200 channel partners to pick from? Has that pool shrunk? Are you happy with the fact that there is now this, you know, sort of legalized way of doing things?
Rustomji, as a developer, our strength lies in relationships. We respect our channel partners like we respect our family members. We love them, we take care of them, we have fun with them, we joke with them like we were buddies. So I think wo jo apnapan hai, RERA cannot be like a Saas and Bahu situation and take away my loving brokers away from us. No RERA in the world can take...
You're really pulling at the heartstrings.
No, it is true. It is true. No litigation or no regulation in the world can break the bond of love and relationships. And it doesn't matter. I don't think much has changed. The people who love Rustomji are still going to love, irrespective RERA is there, not there, what happens to it. So I think if the foundation is love, respect, relationship, value addition, regulations will come, regulations will go, we will respect them, but the relationship stays, and that's the most important thing. Yeah.
Okay. Siddharth, I'm sure that resonates with you, but I'm sure you have something more to add.
Yeah, definitely relations as far as they go, they are the basis of how this entire industry works. But something, since we are talking about the opportunities and challenges, the challenges are numerous. Like, we are all, like horrified with the fact that how the reforms have changed the entire industry. But looking at the opportunities, we usually, any developer normally accounts for around 20% of repeat purchases or say, referral bookings, which we call it. We usually remunerate our existing customers, or we, through cash or kind, there are few developers who do a direct payout to their existing customers. Now, with RERA, so RERA clearly says that you can pay only someone who is a registered real estate agent with RERA. So there's a window of opportunity for the entire community, the broker community, to tap that, eat up to that particular, and that's a sizable number. So suppose for a 100 crore project, if your typical broker sale is around 40%, and typically you account for around 20% of your repeat purchases. So if that 20% of your referral customer, if they were generated, say 50% through brokers, you still have around 10 crore of business which has come from brokers who introduced you the customer. So at least that 10 crore pie still remains with the brokers now. Normally, developers, it's not wrong, because if I develop a relationship with my customer, obviously he might tend to refer directly. And since there was some benefit involved, so customer used to bypass the channel partner who actually introduced you to the brand. Yeah. So I think with that, this particular, it's a small opportunity, for sure, but put together all developers and the entire ambit of all projects, I'm sure this is a sizable amount, and the share of customers which they can get back to through them now.
So I suppose initially, everyone has given a big thumbs up to RERA, but Samir, I want to turn focus to the challenges that RERA brings with it, or what it doesn't do to address the needs of your community. I think one thing that I think everybody agrees on is that it doesn't sort of ring fence you against the law or safeguard some of your interests. And here I'm referring to, say, a 5% penalty of the total property that you have to shell out, perhaps for some reason that, you know, the developer may have made a mistake and not delivered on, you know, their promise, but it's the broker who's held responsible. That's a tad unfair.
Sure, absolutely. You know, I believe no pain, no gain.
Okay.
You know, when the Income Tax Act came out the first time, you know, obviously there were so many anomalies and so many changes, and it's gone through about 150, 200 or more repeals, amendments. And today it's what it is, you know, much more robust than what it was in 61 or wherever it started. So this is the foundation RERA. I think changes will happen. NAR India specifically is taking upon itself to address issues at the state level, in every state, as well as the national level with the government, and you know, wants to ensure that certain things come up. And of course, one of the key things is the penalties. The penalties, termination, etc., cancellation of registration. So in terms of penalties, for one, we believe that, you know, if there's 100 that is a transacted amount, and hypothetically if you're getting 2, then why should we pay 5 if at all there is an issue, and especially if the issue is not accountable to us. So that is one key thing. While the developer, with due respect, is transacting at the 100, and therefore 5% is minuscule in that sense. You know, we don't really necessarily have a problem as what the developer you know, pays or doesn't pay, but it's essentially about us. We don't want to compare that, but it's definitely an unfair bias there. The second is in terms of termination. Project, maybe, you know, if there's a problem with the project, I feel that the realtor here can be suspended for a year, 2 years, because remember, this is our livelihood. The guy is grown, maybe he's 20 years old in this business. And all of a sudden, you say this guy has done something wrong, knowingly or unknowingly, or maybe the developer's done something wrong, or there was a misrepresentation, knowingly or unknowingly. And with that, you can suspend maybe the license for that particular project for a year. But if you say, no, he cannot trade, the right to livelihood itself is being questioned. So that's another huge issue. Thank you.
Sam, can I button for 1 second? Yeah, sir.
Sorry?
Just ask you a quick question. I'm not a moderator, I know that. But how does it work in America? Is the developer liable or the broker liable? I'm not very clear about that.
I think I'll park that question for later, but very valid point. But if I may just add a couple of others. So I think the other issues that we have, of course, for one, you know, as RERA progresses and as we start addressing, slowly all challenges will be streamlined. So I think this is a great learning for us. We, you know, we have members from NAR India who are eventually, hopefully, going to be on various advisory boards at the local as well as the national level. So, you know, I'd only seek and request all our audience here and all the members of NAR India to have patience. Change is going to happen. There are challenges. Take them in your stride, and very soon you'll see those challenges being nullified.
What about you? Do you think it's skewed in favor of the developer right now?
Yes, of course. That's a fact. I mean, the law is not really 100% in favor of us, but I would tell my broker community here that don't be wary of the F word. What I meant was fear. Get that fear out of your system. Today, okay, the 4-letter F word, fear. Get that out of your system, because today we are in a position where we can choose developers who we want to do business with. Because unless and until they comply with the law, only then we will start doing business with them. All we have to do is make sure that we get ourselves well informed, educated, keep your integrity and ethics in place. Believe me, we are here to stay, like what the other panelists said. We have no replacement. We are here permanent. A developer may come and go, but a well-informed broker is here to stay for sure.
Mr. Rampathan, let me ask you So we know that this is a pain point, as it were. What can be done to fix it, though?
See, one of the biggest safeguard that a real estate agent can do, if everyone has read the law, it says that real estate agent now have to keep books, the relevant books of accounts and the way they do systems and all. It also places importance on not only written but even verbal. So if I verbally commit someone while selling a property in, let's say, Rustamji saying he's got an Olympic-sized swimming pool coming, where he's not committed it. I said verbally, I can be taken to task by the RERA authority for misrepresentation. See, very important word for all real estate agents to remember, one word is called misrepresentation. So it will be very prudent for you as a real estate agent to communicate very clearly with the developers. If I'm working with Rustamji and I say, Kezad, I'm going to sell your Urbania property, I better take in an email or writing, what are you delivering with the property? Be very clear about it. Unfortunately, we are evolving a lot, so not many of us have systems, operation, processes, writing with us. We don't have process, a lot of us don't have. So it's better that you start now becoming an organized broker. Whenever you sell properties, please take it in writing from the developers. What are they promising? What are they going to give and deliver? And only commit what they have committed you with a clear understanding that you have it in writing. Because misrepresentation is one word that may catch everyone at the wrong foot, wrong note, and we can be liable. So it's a matter of, I say, being careful, as all the other learned panelists out here said. We are just started. So there are going to be some speed breakers. There's an evolving model. Now, at my level, the Association of Real Estate Agents Mumbai, we've given a 42-page representation to Maharera on how things can be made better, not only for us, but the customer as well, and as a developer industry. So I think they're going to start taking feedback. So my request to other associations and NAR India as a body is to do all this representation, tell them what the pain points are. So we have to be very careful in doing business is what I'm advocating right now.
Chetan, what is the sense you get, when you interact with people from your community? Is this a big deterrent? Is this something that has, the community worried? Or, it's something that I think when more and more regulation comes in and you see more of the informal economy move towards the formal economy, it's something that I think people will be able to work around.
The informal economy and formal economy, that died in November. This has died, right? Yes, imagine GST. That's the next subject we're going to talk about later, but yes. So earlier, I mean, this is a great point, actually. I discussed this with you earlier when we were brainstorming. So all my business used to go to either Ram Prasad or Vinod Thakkar. He's not around here, because I would never want to deal with developers. I don't do under construction and never did under construction, only from the fear of committing, in spite of, I told you, being best friends with the likes of Vikas Oberoi, Niranjan ji, and the likes of whoever, right? And they would say, Chetan, 4 saal mein de denge possession. Then I would sell it to, this young lady here, and then she will come back and yell at me, you said 4 years and 5 years. Like how Ram Prasad said, it's not misrepresentation. It's only representing what you said, and what you said and what somebody else said. I'm just conveying that. But just to add to what you said, Ram, there's a load of bullshitter brokers as well, who bullshit a lot, who don't, the things that are not existing, they will talk about, this project mein ye bhi aayega, wo bhi aayega. What the hell? You don't even know. I can actually read through that. Then there are these developer sales guys who also add a lot. I have no idea why they do that. So now all of that will be in check, which is really great. Sangeet Kumar, my only fan.
I think the fingers are being pointed at the developers, so let's ask them what they think. Kezad, you tell me. You think, you can't not agree that, you can't really hold the broker responsible if you don't deliver on your promise.
I beg your pardon, can you repeat?
I said you can't hold the broker responsible, the home buyer, if a developer like yourself doesn't deliver on the promise.
Yes, of course, I agree with you. And why should the broker be held responsible? He's like he said, he's just a mediator, he's just a communicator, and he's just enabling the transaction. So we are like the mother who gives birth to the product, and they take the kid to the right school, and बच्चे को education, तालीम वगैरह देने का उन लोग का काम है. अपना काम है to give birth to that, right? The only thing is he needs to understand what are the needs of the child, कितना tantrum throw करता है, क्या 100 मीटर चाइल्ड का रेस को मैराथन नहीं भगाने का. Like he said, don't talk bullshit, rubbish, nonsense. So get educated, read the brochure yourself. Like he said, गोली पड़ेगी तो हम लोग को पड़ेगी. तुम लोग काय को साथ में शहीद हो रहे हो हमारे साथ. So yeah, I think just be on your toes and just don't overdo it and let us stand tall and take care of everything.
Let us stand tall and take care of everything.
So I would second Kaizen on that, sorry. So the thing is, see, earlier, the broker was just like a person who, I'm not talking about all the brokers, I'm talking about out of this 1.5, 2 million, what the number, Sam throwed, that out of them 50% might get washed out because they're typical those panwalas or watchmen who are got into this business. But earlier, what used to happen, a broker used to get a customer to our office, and that's where his job used to get over. Now, his job will start once he gets the deal done. So he has to be in touch with his customer, keep him updated, keep him in control so that he doesn't get a surprise at the end of the day. Second thing, as everyone would agree, you need to be informed. There's everything put on our RERA website with due buffers for typical 3-year projects which were completed in 3 years. Developers normally putting a buffer of around 2 years and saying 5 years, for the completion date. So I think get the information correct. Be proactive, meet the developers, go to their office, and probably developers are also very eager to meet all the brokers nowadays. So keep the interaction on so that you are updated about every aspect of the project. So there is no misrepresentation as the word is being used, and unknowingly and unknowingly. So because there have been cases where it was never intentional for a developer also. The hit the developer gets if a project is delayed, definitely it's more than what a customer pays to the bank, in terms of his EMIs or his rentals. A developer is equally hit, even more in terms of what he pays, as a penalty of delaying the project. So I think, to summarize it, I would say the information.
His underlining word was developers are eager to meet brokers nowadays. Otherwise, when their goods are sold, they're not ever.
No, it's not the case,
That's the truth. That's the truth. I've been through I've been in the business for 28 years, and I've seen 4 cycles of low, and I know exactly when they reach out.
It's not about being eager. I would just replace the word with more welcoming now. So, I think more welcome would be a better word.
Okay, so I think we've sort of addressed the challenges, and of course this discussion is about challenges and opportunities, so let's get to the opportunities as far as RERA goes. Sameer, we were discussing how a lot like what GST has done, right? One nation, one tax. Is that the dream for brokerages as well? One nation, one license?
So yeah, let me put it this way, that I will still call them as challenges. Okay. If I may say that, I left some of the challenges for the benefit of the others, but I'm sorry, I still feel there are 4 key challenges that we have, and if I may address them. Sure. The first one is there must be one license across the country. It's really unfair. I know it's a state subject, but there has to be one license. If I register in Delhi, I should be able to practice across the country. It's the same country. We don't need to divide the country. What's happening is if I have 5 offices, which is what GST is. So why not we have the same thing? So one license, one country is one key thing. Yeah. The second is standardization of the fees that is charged.
But no, I have a question there, right? I mean, it's unaffordable to buy a house in Bombay, for example, right? So
absolutely.
How do you go about, doesn't it just make sense? Isn't it a factor of demand and supply? And so won't your fee sort of depend on that?
No, the fees I'm talking about is the fee that RERA registration is. Okay. So really what happens is, in one city, the fee might be 10,000 rupees. In another city, it might be 100,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees.
But that's because land is a state subject, right?
Fair enough. But the point is, since it's all about money and affordability, why should the fee in Bangalore and Delhi and Mumbai be different? So registration fee for a broker across the country, whether he's an individual or other than an individual, or in fact the controversy whether he's a proprietor or an individual, I believe it should be flat out the same for individual and sole proprietor across the country. And it should be different for non-individual, non-proprietor, which means a corporate body, a partnership, etc. So that's a huge anomaly that, you know, we are definitely talking to the government on this. Yeah. The other was protection of our fees. See, once we've come into RERA, there is an escrow for the customer's protection because the money should not go into different places by the developers. Yeah. What I've been told through some, you know, in between the line reading is that the fees that we are supposed to get doesn't fall under escrow. I think it's highly inappropriate. Like you're protecting the customer, we know for a fact that brokers across the country haven't been getting paid by many developers. Of course, the developers on the stage and a lot of others and our sponsors pay in time, but I'm talking about the others, rest of the people. So if we have protection of our fee through the same escrow, so when you're putting 70% there, it should protect our fees. It's only 2%, 5%, 3%, whatever it is. Thank you. And you know, I have one more point that I noted. Yeah. So one last thing is that in order for us not to have any controversy between who got the deal, I believe that every transaction that happens in the country between a client and a developer, the broker's name and his RERA license number must be incorporated in the contract so that we are secure legally to get our commissions. Otherwise, we're fighting across to get that.
These are some excellent points. I think
Thank you.
I'm sure they'll resonate. Mr. Ramprasad, you want to just add? And also, I just want to ask, I mean, is this something that's been formally, have you made this pitch to the government?
Yes, we're in the process. We've actually gone to Supreme Court lawyers to actually bring this into play. Okay. And our chairman of the National Association Realtors, Ravi Verma, is playing an active role to get this done, along with the new president and myself and various others. And of course, there's a committee that we have on RERA. Yeah. So we're very actively pursuing that for our members. Thank you.
Yeah, so I think this is the main role for an umbrella organization all over country, that we need to make a very strong representation because we don't see a need for having multiple licenses. I may be based in Mumbai, I do one-off deals in Delhi, Bangalore. Does it mean that I go to Bangalore, take a license first, or do I have to just refer my business? Now, one thing people have to be very clear that even if you're referring business, you're still called a party to the transaction and you need a license. Yes, I agree it's a state law. There can be some checks like, the penalty or the other requirements in Maharashtra is higher, Gujarat is lower. We may have to abide by the state rules where we are working, but just having one license. Like Samir, I'm sure, being a chartered accountant, you don't have 20 licenses to operate all over the... Absolutely. Same goes for a lawyer, same goes for everything. So today, one license for the country is more than enough. That should be the strong standardization rates, yes. And there's a big controversy happening on the fees for individual proprietor. I think it's very high time that the government clarifies, and if there are distinction between individual and proprietor, they should tell us what is the benefit additional that they're giving to proprietors. Like in Maharashtra, the fees for a proprietary firm is 100,000 rupees, but for an individual, it's 10,000 rupees. Now we understand both really mean the same, and the distinction is not created adequately. So some sort of fee standardization should be there. Why should a Gujarat guy pay less and a Mumbai guy pay more?
And so, Ram, if I may just add here, since you mentioned chartered accountants, sales tax was also state subject, and it was different across the country, but the same chartered accountant with the same license could practice for sales tax. So if he could practice across the country with the same license, then so even if it's a state subject, real estate a state subject, but still we should have the same license, the same fee across the country to practice. Yeah.
And at the same time, NAR India is doing a good job, but my urge to local associations, there are almost 46 city associations. I am sure at least Mumbai has 10, 15 more associations which are still not connected to NAR India. What happens is, we would request even those associations to make representation at their level, because a collective voice that goes to the government is bound to get some results to us.
Great. I just want to say, I have 7 minutes left, so should we open this up for Q&A? Is everybody on board? Or, yeah. Or we've got GST to talk about. I don't...